Well, to be honest, I used to gamble a lot in that same area. But my father scolded me a lot and told me just go at the ball field. Because I was in that position whereby I was in negative activities. But my father was the driving force in terms of me not being in that gang or that company. So I ended up going to the ball field, and this is where my game changed.
But where is Amboy's Avenue? And why do so many according to Sinclair fall prey to delinquent acts? Commonly known as Coudam, the Berbice neighborhood has many squatter settlements on the outskirts of central New Amsterdam. And out of such hardships is where Sinclair made his name.
So the pipe there, we used to we didn't have a big bathroom, so we used to use a pipe and bathe right at the pipe, and then we used to go inside. So this is it. This is it. This is it. Five of us in this house alone. My mother, my father, my sister, and my little brother. Basically, the whole family used to live it, but when most of them get big, they branch off and go to town. And my sister went to town and established herself as a registered nurse. And my brother, he's in the Borbis River right now. But this is where that started with the trees. Well, my father like plant. He sees a lot of trees. So when I was small, this wasn't a big tree. This is like about 15 years old. The tamarind tree.
How you guys manage this though? 5 persons living. Are you sure there's a bedroom in here?
Yeah, it is. But it used to be tough because when somebody when my sister changing, you gotta come out unless she changing and things. So it used to be kind of tough. Even when I went in the academy, my brother used to sleep on the bed. Sometimes my brother got sleep in the chair if I get the bed because I gotta get my rest so I gonna play my game. Till the night I come and see the in the chair, say man come and sleep with me. So two we used to lie down on a little bed. So he lie down here and I lie down here. You can't really turn. So it used to be tough, but in the end,
when they make a bed for y'all?
yeah, I remember. But in the end,
How emotional is it being back here? Obviously, now you sleep on the bed where you could turn. I know this is where you came from just years ago.
man, it teach you a lot, man. It teach you, to be a better person, and you know where you come from, and you would always want to reach out to people that in this situation because it don't be easy. Some days it don't be. Some days you come home, you don't get nothing to eat. You gotta be worrying. That's why I was passionate about cricket because I realized that hey, this could be life changing for me, and I never really focused on books too much in school. The teacher say get talent, but you know your work. I mean, but you're just playful. But that was me passion when I used to go to school. I actually read school before the janitor. I read school 4 to 5 in the morning just to play cricket.
You get a young lady. I mean, she can't see it not too long. She says she used to collect sheep, care sheep food for you.
How many days you went to school without eating?
Um, like I
Well,
said, it used to be many days because your parents can't afford it that much. I go to school with a stitch up pants and everything, But they had a particular lady in school who used to work
The
at the
canteen
canteen.
lady.
She know my situation. She used to give me things and make sure I have it and stuff. So I was grateful for Auntie Marcy the way she looked out for me. But
you
like I
played
said,
cricket hungry?
yeah, why not some days? But most of the days when I playing cricket, we used to get buns and lime wash, so to speak, like lime juice. He used to provide it for us, but when you're out there batting, you say we going Chinese later. It's 100. Can everybody want to go Chinese?
Swatting mosquitoes in a shack, playing cricket for dinner as a young man, all with one goal of one day making it to the top to take care of his family.
The more I do well, the more I could give back. So it's all about me as well performing to the best of my ability on the field, so I could able to reach back to these people in those communities.
Battling out of poverty did not happen overnight. It started on a concrete strip where it was just a fanciful thought to play for the West Indies.
Here, this is the concrete strip that I usually be talking about. This is where I start. my love for the game. So we used to play in front of that gate, and we just hit the ball facing that way. We used to bat this way and facing that way and hitting the ball over there. So I used to be listening in the house, what going on TV, and calling myself chilling for it in the yard. So this is where it all started, right on this little concrete strip. So it's emotional for me, but it's always good for people to know and share that little story in terms of where you come from.
But to be honest, given how things were, especially Barbies, so much talent. You ever thought from this concrete ship you'd have been playing in international stadiums?
No, I never thought of that, but this is where it all started, right? But for me, I moved to Angers Avenue with my grandfather, get the opportunity to actually witness his grandson for the very first time playing in the yard with my neighbor. And that's when he see the talent in me.
From that strip, it was into the backyard of his grandfather, Carlton Sinclair, and it was a move that shaped his career to where it is today.
He used to be there, and I used to be like right here batting all the time. But the only thing for cut and them thing used to be like hard to execute the shot because it wasn't that wide enough. So most people used to play like more straight up in front.
We had company, as it was not just us who wanted to throw back to the old days in the yard in Kodab, as Sinclair's pets joined in.
Hey, yeah.
You gotta play to the ball. Oi!
All right, bully. All right, bully.
Oi, bye!
Good. Yeah. So this mango tree here, we used to put a light on it and used to shine down so in the night. It used to be bright, and we just didn't knock it.
You know about you wrong.
How many hours you guys used to spend here on a day?
It's like close to 6 hours, I should say.
Well, this wasn't much,
It wasn't much. It's like about 20 yards. About 20 yards.
It's me alone. Me get wife and picnic from mine, everybody. But sending me for look for job. All I used to tell you, this thing was giving you. If you didn't take it, Hazrat and Ali waiting there for collect you for work for them. You used to say, Nami, you live Nami. Take. I was very creative. And I had was to be creative because you used to have to study them boys. Some they very smart. And like when I bowling, I used to do most of the bowling. When I bowling, they get some, the wicket keeper, he tell them why is the ball for the play. So sometimes when I come to here, you tell them leg break. And I used to do magic here. So when you think it guy in there, it come back.
And another thing we used to do, when the rain fall here, it used to be wet. So it used to be slippery, so you can't practice. So he sent me on the road to get, he usually burns a lot. Tampolin, spread it here.
Right through.
And the kiddies
They had your
ball.
own covers.
Yeah, the kiddies ball, you bowling on top of the cover, so just sliding on. And then your foot sliding, so you got to be able to move.
So you get
foot movements.
So I'm going to ask you something, right?
Yeah.
Look, we being real of where we are standing now to where he is now, wearing a West Indies shirt. Just back in the West Indies setup. How proud are you whenever you sit back and watch him on television?
Looky there. We don't plan all of these things we are here. Looky there. I tell you today and tomorrow when you land, that was telling me. Them boys will heist you and fetch you in. And you must. These things they don't live.
You had a plan that from out of this, you would have been here.
Up.
And the beauty about it, no coconut never fall on you, because it's on the coconut tree.
But if you used to fall by the gambling spot.
Yeah, the gambling spot, yeah. In front row tea. And all, it was rough, but we had an empty land there that we used to go and, play. And growing up, playing for West Indies and stuff, I think something needed like that in the community, whereby the kids could go and have fun and play. But right now, when I go back at home, driving through the same street that I grew up, that's no longer there.
How much does that pain you seeing what you had as a youngster is not there for the next generation?
it's tough because you only see them lingering on the street, smoking, little kids smoking on the streets and some. This is something that I want to, haul them away from. So this is why I'm passionate about this foundation to send that positive message. Once there's life, there's hope, and not because things ain't going on for you, you know, you think that's the end.
The 23-year-old has already gathered some support from corporate Guyana as he conducted youth academies in Demerara and Berbice this year. The intention is to expand further to all counties and certainly back home in Kodam to cater for the young generation of cricketers.
When I go back in my community, when I look and see what's going on, that drives me. And it's not only about my passion, it's wanting to make a difference, And I think doing it at the early stage is gonna help, save many as possible, not to stray. Because when you look at what's going on in the small communities, a lot of negative. I can tell you, youngsters going into smoking and them thing, and they are the future. So my thing about it is the kids are the future, and we need to protect them. So it's all about giving them that kind of belief in terms that they could make it out, because I make it out as well. And it's just sending a positive message, man.
Another one down. What a delivery from Kevin Sinclair. What a comeback he's having. A young man of immense ability.
Oh, yes. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101 tonight. Last night I discovered that little short documentary as I was scrolling through my YouTube. And I thought I'd share it. Documentary about a young man, young Kevin Sinclair, a 23-year-old. He's playing today for Guyana versus the Windwards. He made 41 and he has taken 1 wicket thus far. The match is still going on. It's a young man that I looked at when he first came on the scene. About 3 or 4 years ago, I saw him for the first time. And there was something about his body language that says that this boy, was more than just a cricketer. And so when I stumbled upon this documentary, I thought I'll share it today, because I think there's a lesson there for us. First of all, we beat up, they beat up. We sometimes beat up on our people. Here's a young man who has decided the cricket field is not just a place to play a sport. He has decided that cricket field would become an anti-poverty arena, beating poverty. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link. I can't do Sherrod, but you all please share the link. And welcome to all of you. All of you are joining us from across Guyana, across the Caribbean. Paris is in the house. The United Kingdom is in the house. The United States, of course, is in the house. We come on here tonight as bodies are falling like breadfruit in Gaza. The bombing of a hospital, hundreds, we don't know how many, hundreds have died, hundreds of Palestinians. And we've been following that from day one. We've been following that war from day one because it has lessons for us in Guyana. But back to young Kevin Sinclair, a young man, 23-year-old, as he said, he didn't take too much to books, although certainly he wasn't a dunce. You can tell from listening to him that he's an intelligent young man. And I use the word intelligent as opposed to bright. Intelligent young man, you can tell listening to him. And he has decided he's going to use the skill, his God-given skill. He's going to use that to turn that cricket field into an anti-poverty arena. And this is a 23-year-old young man. You all saw the house that, well, my God, to call it a house, eh? It was a home, but to call it a house. You all saw where he came from. A place that all of us, most of us came from.
So I end up going to the ball field, and this is where my game changed.
But where is Ungary's Avenue, and why do so many Curtis Sinclair fall prey to delinquent acts? Commonly known as Cow Dam, the Berbice neighborhood has many squatter settlements on the outskirts of central New Amsterdam, and out of such hardships is where Sinclair made his name.
So the pipe there, we used to, like, we didn't have a big bathroom, so we used to use a pipe and bathe right at the pipe, and then we used to go inside. So this is it. This is it. This is it. Five of us in this house alone. My mother, my father, my sister, and my little brother. Basically, the whole family used to live it, but when most of them get big, they branch off and go to town. And my sister went to town and established herself as a registered nurse. And my brother, he's in the Berbice River right now. But this is where that started with the trees. Well, my father liked plant. You see a lot of trees. So when I was small, this wasn't a big tree. This is like about 15 years old. The tamarind tree.
How you guys manage this though? 5 persons living. Are you sure there's a bedroom in here?
Yeah, it is. But it used to be tough because when my sister changing, you gotta come out unless she changing and things. So it used to be kind of tough. Even when I went in the academy, my brother used to sleep on the bed. Sometimes my brother got to sleep in the chair if I get the bed because, I gotta get my rest, so I'm gonna play my game. Till the night I come and see the in the chair, he said, man, come and sleep with me. So 2 weeks used to lie down on a little bed. So he lie down here and I lie down here. You can't really turn. So it used to be tough, but in the end,
They make a bed for you.
yeah, I remember. But in the end,
How emotional is it being back here? Obviously, now you sleep on a bed where you could turn. I know this is where you came from just years ago.
man, it teach you a lot, man. It teach you, to be a better person. And you know where you come from, and you would always want to reach out to people that
All of us, most of us, can identify with that. And sometimes we forget. Sometimes we get caught up in the politics, the politics, the party politics, and all of that, and we forget the politics of survival and the politics of poverty, and that we are in politics to change that. All of us can identify with it. I remember me and my brother George, we brought our nephew, my sister's son, who was born in the United States. And he was, I think, about 12 years old when we brought him home for the first time to Guyana. And when he went into the little house that we insist that we're not tearing it down, it's still there at Buxton Line Top. And I remember that little boy, he looked at me and my brother George. He said, Uncle George, Uncle David, tell me, how the two of you, my mother, Auntie Diane, Uncle Brian, Uncle Richard, and Auntie Cecilia, how you all used to fit in here. And for the first time, I realized that place was small. Of course, we know, those of us who grew up in those circumstances, the size doesn't matter. We were there and it was big. But when that little boy asked me that question, I looked at my brother George and George looked at me and we couldn't answer him. The three of us hugged and tears flew down our eyes. And all of you can identify with that. And it's not where you come from, it's what you do with where you come from. We beat up on ourselves sometimes because we think our young people are useless. We think sometimes the parents are useless. Look at that grandfather. Eventually, that grandfather's house, I think, burned down. And Kevin was able to build back a house for his grandfather. But look at the advice the grandfather gave him. When you get to the top, they will lift you up, but always come back and give back. We beat up on ourselves sometimes and we don't say thanks enough to the positiveness that comes out of our wombs. And so I played that little documentary there tonight because I want to say to us, politics is not just about changing governments. Politics is about doing something about those circumstances. That's what politics ultimately is about. Often we fight to change governments and put a government that we like there. At the end of the day, have our governments facilitated the change in the material circumstances of poor people. Coudam in New Amsterdam. Not the name. Coudam. That's the neighborhood that young man has come from. In New Amsterdam. And so when these nincompoops that are in power now tell us about how wonderful Guyana is, what have you done for Coudam? Is Coudam in your calculations? We measure progress by the big buildings that we see. Many of us have been able to escape that poverty through luck and circumstance. And we can now go back home and build our big houses. But don't forget the small houses that are still there. Poverty is hell. That's what Shadow says. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101 tonight. We have to justify why we are in this struggle. And what I'm trying to say to you all here tonight, we are not in this struggle just to remove the PPP. That we have to do in order to begin to set our country right. That we have to do. But that is not the only thing that we have to do. We have to socialize ourselves to begin to think beyond our narrow horizons. They curse me every day, say I am a racist and all that story. And They're within their right to do so. But I know what I'm about. I know what I'm about. And that is why we persevere every day. I got this letter. I went into my office yesterday, I think, and I'm not in the habit of clearing my mailbox at work too often. And apparently the mail got there, and they went into my office and put it there. So when I went into the office, I saw the mail, and I saw this strange envelope. And when I opened it, there was a letter written to the office of the president of Arizona State University, where I work. And it says, "Dear President Crow, please excuse my intrusion of your office and your time. I am writing about an important matter we've previously discussed: the extreme racism and terrorism of Associate Professor David Hinds. Racism in capital letter, terrorism in capital letter, David Hinds in capital letter. While we acknowledge that he is shielded and protected by tenure, we do not believe that it should give him a free license to peddle his extremism to the fine young men and women at Arizona State. For example, his rants to undermine the government has resulted in the burning down of several government buildings. His fellow compatriot in the Serpentine WPA party recently begged the predominantly African army to turn their guns on the Indian people, allegedly on the orders of David Hinds. Please note that Guyana is the only country in the world where the minority Africans are demanding that the Indian majority must run the country based on the wishes of the African people. Our attorneys have sent video clips of selected acts of incitement of violence and terrorism, along with a memorandum of laws for a possible lawsuit against David Hinds in the foreseeable future. Also included are copies of the findings from our research of David Hinds. For example, past students have expressed disappointment and frustration with his style of teaching and have voted him one of the worst teachers they've had. The tentative days we have for demonstration against David Hinds at Arizona are September 27, October 19th, November 16, December 19. We intend to have demonstrations from every one of Asia's 48 countries. They are tired of the racism being shown to their fellow Asians and will come out to show solidarity with their Indian brethren, and sisterin. Respectfully, the Guyanese Asian American Friendship Society. That's a letter that they sent to my place of work. It's not the first time. They have been sending letters to my place of work as far back as 2000, the year 2000. Sorry, 2002. One time I was at a conference in Jamaica. The head of my department eventually tracked me down there. And she said she was concerned because they got a note from the office of the president of Guyana that I was part of a coup that overthrew the government of Guyana. And as an employee, they wanted to make sure that I was safe. So I said, well, I'm at a conference. They said, well, if you overthrow government, they assume I might be in prison. So I said, no, I'm at a conference in Jamaica. They were able to trace those early letters to the office of the president of Guyana. And they've continued every year to send those letters to my place of work. This is only the most recent one. Now, I don't talk much about these things because it's not about me. You know, this is not about me. And I don't want to substitute myself for the struggle of the Guyanese people. I've been victimized for being in politics from the time I was in short pants. So that for me is not the news. The news is the extent to which people would go to silence you. The objective, of course, is for me to get knocked off and so on, you know, and on all of that. But the larger question here is these are people that talk about how democratic they are. How democratic they are. Yet they're prepared to go to those lengths to silence critics of their government. I think the authorities, they sent me in the package. There's also a 6 and 8 page memorandum about Rickford Burke, because they say Rickford Burke is my compatriot. And they sent this and they copied this thing on Rickford Burke to the Attorney General, Mary Garland, to the Majority House Leader, Kevin McCarthy, to the House Ethics Chairman, Jason Smith, to the Chairman of the Department of Civil Rights, to the Chairman of the Progressive Caucus, to the Governor of New York, and to the Chairman of New York Ethics Committee. And the memorandum maligns Rickford Burke, Minority Leader Jeffries, Attorney General Letitia James, and they've sent it. And they sent this to my university to say, these are my friends that I'm part of this design to hurt Indian people in Guyana. I'm sharing these so that you all can get an idea of the people that we are dealing with. They were foolish enough to put their address, the person who sent this to the president of my university, to put their address. I don't have the envelope in front of me here, but I will share that address. Because if they want to make themselves fools, my auntie always tell me, when people want to make themselves fools, help them to put their address from Queens there in New York. My point is that whoever these persons are, they are not doing these things on their own. They're either instigated by leaders of the PPP / the government, or they're doing what they think the leaders of the government and the PPP want them to do. Of course, those of you who know universities work, nobody has asked me anything. They would share these things with me, except for the one instance when the university received information that I was part of a coup. They were calling to make sure that I was safe. But quite apart from that, they have no conversations with me about these things. I think their response to them, as they said in the letter, that I am tenured, and I don't speak here on behalf of Arizona State University. I'm very clear about that. I don't represent the university. Once I leave the university confines, unless I'm going to a conference or something like that. But when I'm doing my work outside of the university, I think the university explained that to them. That's my business. And in any case, I think in one instance, they must have been told that, professors are encouraged to support social justice. But the point is the length that these people go. The length that they have gone. As you all know, I travel to Guyana all the time. I live partly in Guyana. I have a residence in Guyana. I go up and down. Sometimes people, tell me, "Are you not afraid to go?" I'm afraid to go in my country. And if I were a terrorist, as they say that I am, and that I'm responsible for burning down buildings or people burning down buildings in Guyana, then they know what to do. They know what to do. I am not allowing the PPP to stop me from going to my own country. As I've said on this program, every time I go in the country, they have to get permission to let me in. The immigration officer has to clear me to go in. Those things don't bother me. They got to do what they got to do. I got to do what I got to do. But I'm saying to you all, these are the people that we are dealing with. I think what bothers them is that somebody like myself don't have to depend on them for a job. I don't have to depend on them for nothing. And there are a few of us on the opposition side who are like that. We don't have to depend on them for anything. People ask me all the time, David, why don't you come home full time and so on and thing, I in my time, I will come home full time. But I am not going to Guyana to depend on any government, worst of all, the PPP government, to make a living. I can make a living and contribute fully to the struggle in Guyana. So what bothers them is that I don't depend on them for a job. So the next thing is where I make a living to get them to knock me off from making a living. As if some or the other that will change anything. It won't stop me from struggling and being part of politics, I can tell you that. And it wouldn't affect the struggle of the Guyanese people against the dictatorship. So I don't understand the foolishness. If they think that if I get knocked off tomorrow, I will shut my mouth and put my tail between my leg and think they're stupid. They're stupid. But it's this simplistic notion that if you hurt people, they will either come and beg you for something or they will shut up. So, I make this public tonight, not to say to people, stop being struggle. And I know people are always concerned about our safety and want us to be safe and so on. And I always appreciate that. But I share this for you all to understand the viciousness of what we're dealing with. Viciousness of what we're dealing with. And that is why we have to wage this struggle to remove the PPP from government. I've criticized PNC governments, Burnham, White, Granger. They never write me workplace and ask for me to get knocked off. I don't like to make comparisons between politicians because in many regards, politicians are the same, what party and whatever they race, but sometimes one has to make these distinctions because it points to culture. It points to culture. It wouldn't occur to me, and I'm sure it wouldn't occur to most of you, if not all of you, that part of political struggle is to write to get your opponents to get knocked out from where they walk in. It has to do with culture. And I don't think our culture is so rancid. These people, political culture comes from a place of nastiness. Nastiness. So we share this tonight to strengthen our resolve to get these people out of the way. But as I said at the beginning of the program, what is our objective? Our ultimate objective is not just to change a government. Our ultimate objective must be to right the wrongs in society. To right the wrongs in society. I want Irfan Ali and Jack Dio and them who say the PNC this and the PNC that and the reducing of the PNC to devils. You know, the PNC is unchanging. This is what the PNC used to do in the 70s, and this is what they're doing today. They're unchanging. The PNC is a political party. And I don't know a political party is a human being. A political party that got so many hundreds and thousands of members and supporters. So you can't be talking about the political party. The political party is not a human being. You have to be talking about the section of the population out of which the PNC comes. And this is what I keep pointing out sometimes to my own comrades. If the PPP's critique of the PNC was the PNC as a party, I don't have any problem with it. But it is the essentializing of the PNC's behavior, which means you're saying that the PNC's behavior arises out of a particular viewpoint of the world that is represented by a particular group of people. I have been critical of the PNC, fought against the PNC when they were in government. But I didn't have to put on a dhoti to do that. I remain black. Because I wasn't saying the PNC was wrong because they're black. So I have to stop being black. They're wrong because they are a political party. But these people, when they talk about rigging, for example, it's not just about a political party rigging, because they just do the same damn thing. They rig, and rig even more in some instances. But yet when they do it, it's not rigging. I am telling you all here tonight, if it were the PNC that they had found 48 boxes without statutory documents, the whole world would have known about it. It would have been every day in the letters columns. But you could find 48 boxes without statutory documents in PPP stronghold, and Guyana pretends as though it doesn't happen. If it were the PNC, I am telling you, they would never let us stop hearing about it. According to them, the PNC attempted to rig an election, and we're hearing it every day. The instance of actual rigging, Guyana pretends that it never happened. You all think about it. The PPP says the PNC attempt. And civil society, the media, all of them hold that as a standard narrative. But when actual rigging was pointed out, people who voted who were not in the country, validated not by the PNC but by the police, Guyana pretends that it didn't happen. So Guyana is prepared to uphold a narrative of attempted rigging and to bury the narrative of actual rigging. That's why I can't stop. Because I don't want that Guyana to be my Guyana. You pretend that actual rigging never happened, but you raise your allegations of attempted rigging to the sky. Martin Carter talks about the origins of rain. I know the origins of that. And the origins of that is not the political party. The origins of that is deep in our ethnic sociology. That's why I can't stop. That's why I can't stop. If the police said 4,000 people weren't there, the PPP found about 20 people, if that many, to say, yes, we were actually there. So take out 20 from 4,000, you still get 4,000 something. And even if it were just one person who voted in an election when they were not in the country, that is rigging. That's not attempted rigging. That's rigging. So you all see why we got to keep this struggle up. It's not just to remove a government or a party. It's to remove a cancer culture. They tell me I'm a racist and all kind of story. As if you'd say that I'm a racist, I will stop talking about race. Or I will stop defending black people when you're all taking advantage of them. It ain't gonna stop. It ain't gonna stop. Because if tomorrow your black people start taking advantage of Indian people, I gonna be condemning you all too. When they were killing Indian people out of Buxton, when the gunmen were there, AUC and I and myself said, not in our name. And we did that risking our lives because those guys had guns. Risking our lives to defend the victimhood of Indian people. And today, to those Indian people, I am the worst racist. That don't bother me either. Because I understand the origins of that. Because if today, tomorrow, they become victims, and I defend them, they will hug me up again. That's the nature of our ethnic politics in Guyana. So I don't bother. I quarrel with my own comrades. Sometimes who have adjourned this view of what race is and how race operates. The best test of whether one is multiracial or not multiracial is not just when you defend people of another. Sorry, it's not just when you defend yourself, it's when you have the courage to defend people of another ethnicity who is under attack from people of your own ethnicity. Which is why I stop using that term often now, because multiracial means all kinds of nonsense to all kinds of stupid people. Your multiracial credentials must be judged by your actions and the policies you support. Not how many people from the other ethnic group you hug up. Ooh, I got black friends. And I just eat pepper pot. that make you multiracial. I had a black boyfriend, that make you multiracial. I had a black girlfriend, that make you multiracial. Damn nonsense. Multiracialism is premised on your commitment to racial equity, to racial justice, to racial respect. I am never going to use a platform like this to tell black people disrespect Indians. Never. I've heard people use their platforms to tell non-black people to disrespect black people. I respect myself as an African, and that allows me to respect other people of their ethnicity. Multiracialism is not based on how many friends you get of the other ethnic group. I watch some of the crooks who joined with the PPP on the other side. Crooks. Show me your company, I tell you who you are. They got black people in the PPP who are my friends because they're genuine PPP. They've been with the PPP through thick and thin, and they have my respect. But all them Johnny come lately who going to drink some soup, I don't see them in the same light because they are not in the same light. They're not. So sisters and brothers, let us keep up this struggle. And this struggle is real. I started last week by saying to you all, the elections are being rigged as we speak. And I'm not saying this to you all to down your spirits. I'm saying it to you all so that we can keep this struggle more intense. While we are talking about biometrics, they're busy giving out birth certificates to people who are coming across the border. Go to Let Them right now. Every day, they're giving out birth certificates and ID cards. So if they agree to biometrics, what they will give up, if they give up half a seat because of biometrics, or give up a seat because of biometrics, they take back 2 seats with the ID cards that they're giving out. I know sometimes I don't sound like a typical politician. I know sometimes you all feel as though I'm saying things to down your all spirit. No. I'm just saying, be real. Be real. Because they're going to say, you ask for biometrics, we give you biometrics. You ask for a clean voters list, we clean it quarter way. And now you lose, you're crying. That's the PPP's plan. They plan to give us 10% of what we asked for because they're going to get 50% somewhere else. All it takes is 1 seat, 5,000 votes. And we saw in 2020 how easy it is for the PPP to steal a seat or 2 and do it quote unquote legally. You see that recount that recount was unconstitutional. Because what we did there was to give GCOM a blank check to do anything. So the recount was unconstitutional. But although the recount was unconstitutional, it showed us how the PPP steals elections. Unintended consequences. If they didn't go to the recount and they'd made the declarations based on what the returning officers declared, then the coalition would have won. They went to the recount. The PPP was able to use the raw count, well, GCOM and the courts, to use the raw count, although the recount said it was a forensic audit. They didn't use the forensic results. They used the raw results. And so the PPP, quote unquote, win. But where they lost is that the rigging was exposed. That is why I don't get into the business of who win and who lost the election. It was about win and loss. It's about one side saying, hey, you attempted to rig the election. And the other side saying, the boxes are open and it showed that you have actually rigged. And GCOM awarded the election despite the revelation that what came out of the boxes showed that the winner who they give the election to was not the actual winner. But you see, our voices are not loud enough. A few of us continue to point out what happened in 2020. The majority of us move on. We have moved on. We go into 2025 and we looking for crossover votes and we move on. The Americans made it clear it was a disputed election with a government that was installed. We have to do both. We have to prepare for 2025, but we also have to fight rigging. We have to fight rigging. And the rigging that's going on right now. They got people telling the PPP going to be in office the next 40 years. They know. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. One day, Kongati, or people say so. Let's stay put. Let's stay woke. And let's understand that this politics is serious business. They're not trying to silence people like me and Rick Ford and so on because they're playing. See, Rick Ford ain't depending on them for work. I ain't depending on them for work. Vincent Alexander depending on them for work. See, there are a few of us who cannot be bought. I don't want to be an ambassador under the PPP. I don't want nothing from them. I cannot be bought. That is why one of the things you all have to do, and I have to congratulate you all. And by you all, I mean Black people in general, but opposition people. We are gradually learning the culture of supporting our causes. Let's be open about it. Because of our own history of people ripping us off and so on, Black people don't support their causes as much as other ethnic groups. I understand that. But we have to change that, and I think we're doing a fair job. I have to thank those of you who have supported Politics 101, have supported my party, the WPA, materially. I thank you all. And I know sometimes you all have to make choices because the pool is large and your pool is narrow. So you all can't support all of us at the same time, materially. But I have to say that we are doing better now than we were doing 3 years ago. When the PPP give them contracts, and they give a $500 million contract, you bet your bottom dollar 10%, 15% of that contract money going through the back door right back to Freedom House. When our contractors get a little contract, it's barely enough to pay their workers and take home something. So our base in the business world is not as large. It doesn't mean that our business people should not be doing better. You don't have to announce who you're giving a donation to, how much you're giving. But what we've been able to do, thank God, is small donations. The $20, the $50, it make a difference to our struggle. And we are doing better, as I said, now than we were 3 years ago. Because that's where they've been beating us part of the time, is that, you got to go back to people outside of your support base for monetary and material support. And so you can't talk as you like because you're worrying. As I've said on many occasions, this is one African who am looking for the validation of non-Africans when I open my mouth to talk about Black people business. When I talk about Black people business, I'm talking straight. I'm not worrying about what my Indian friend or my Indian comrade gonna say. If Black people getting beat, I say they're getting beat. And I ain't nicing it up. Oh, well, they're getting beat by Indian people suffering too. No. That's not my story. When I talk about Indian people suffering, I talk about Indian people suffering. As Indian people suffering. So I'm not looking for validation from the other side. When I talk about Indian people suffering, I'm not looking for validation from Black people. And when I'm talking about Black people suffering, I'm not looking for validation from Indian people. Indian people, for the most part, will not see Black suffering in the same way as I will see it. I am looking from the inside out. They are looking from the outside in. You see two different things. You don't live a house, you don't know where you leak. And this nonsense of black leaders who are always having to qualify when they talk about black people, more power to them, but not this black man. I never did it, and I'm not about to do it now. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Right is right, wrong is wrong. We come tonight, we are in solidarity with the people in Gaza. We're in solidarity with them. Those of us who have come across the seas, whether it's the Middle Passage, or whether it's coming across the seas through indentureship, we know what it is to have our humanity smashed. The war crimes of Hamas do not justify the war crimes of Israel. The war crimes of Hamas do not justify the tripling and quadrupling of the war crimes by the Israelis. We in Guyana, we know the nonsense. When you tell the PPP, look what you're doing, oh, the PNC, they do it. Even if the PNC, they do it, and even if it was wrong, your wrong is not justified because the PNC, they do wrong. We come in peace, we go in peace. Tomorrow night, I'll be back, ready to go again, because we are on a mission, and the mission is to make our country right for all of us, Africans, Indians, Amerindians, Chinese, Portuguese, mixed people, however you describe yourself. We want a Guyana that is right for all of us. Love you all.